My problem is there's no context for making sweeping statements.
You know that's true.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
True or not?
You are a racist. We will bring in. We will bring in.
Racist. Is it true?
She can't even. I don't even know if she's lived in any of these places. So yeah, they won't even deal with the.
Is it true?
I want to ask
you are a racist.
Mehdi Hasan and Benny Morris head to head. Holy shit! No shot. What was this conversation like?
Is the state of Israel from which you benefit, and you should be thankful for it.
I'm not grateful at all.
Because the only country in the Middle East, the only free country in the Middle East, elect their officials, be elected, be judges at the Supreme Court, be president of a university. The only free country in the Middle East is Israel.
Dan, do you want to respond to that?
I find it staggering that the gentleman to my right is telling the Palestinian citizen of Israel how she is experiencing the reality under which she lives. It's a staggering moment for me. Now, you know, there was
okay, you didn't respond to a single possible thing that, or you didn't respond to anything he said, other than you found it astounding, but okay.
Different strands to Zionism, okay? There was a cultural Zionism, there was a binational Zionism. This could have gone in different directions. From the perspective of 2024, 75 plus years in, the idea that this is just something benign doesn't match with the reality that has been lived. Now, I would say it's clear what this has meant for Palestinians, but I would argue it's not doing what was written on the tin for Jews either. I don't think either Israeli Jewish or global Jewish safety is best served by the actions we see day in, day out in Gaza.
Would you like to respond to what you heard from the panel?
Please.
I think there's a misunderstanding here. There's a separation between Israel and the West Bank, Israel and the occupied territory largely populated by the Palestinians and the state of Israel. In Israel itself.
Correct. The mixing up of like Palestinians living in Israel versus the ones in the West Bank versus the ones in the Gaza Strip. All of these areas probably demand a different treatment intellectually, if you're honest about it, right? Palestinian citizens of Israel are just citizens of Israel. They should enjoy more or less all the same rights and privileges as any Jewish Israeli citizen, any citizen of Israel. Palestinians in the West Bank are largely living under the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian National Authority, the PNA, right? Palestinian Liberation Authority? No, it's PA or PNA, I think. Their existence and everything is going to be a lot different than the Palestinians living in the Gaza Strip who are living under Hamas, right? All three types of Palestinians, if you use all of them in the same utterance, it makes me think that you're full of shit. It's like when people talk about like immigrants, illegal immigrants, and refugees all in the same, like, and treating them as the same cohort. It's like, well, these people are all very different. It's just PA. I've seen PA and I've seen PNA to refer to them. I don't know why. I don't know how standard that is, but I think I've seen both. Yeah, Palestinian Authority, officially known as the Palestinian National Authority. I've seen PNA written as well, but regardless. Is PLO the combination of the PA and Gaza? No. PLO is the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which is just like a huge umbrella thing that has different political parties underneath it. So the largest political party in the PLO would be Fatah, F-A-T-A, right? Now, the Palestinian Authority or the Palestinian National Authority is like the government that was created in the Oslo Accords to govern. And originally, it was supposed to be the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, but now it's just the West Bank. And a lot of the people from the PLO organization, or like the PLO umbrella, so people from Fatah and other parties in the PLO, like are also members of the government of the Palestinian Authority as well.
The occupied territory largely populated by the Palestinians and the state of Israel. In Israel itself, there is a rule of law. There is generally equality between the Jews and the Arabs, and you're misrepresenting it when you say that they are persecuted, and he's damn right in what he says. All the Arab states are dictatorships which do...
Did you talk about the Mohammed Deif assassination yet? I haven't, but oof, Israel hitting them big targets. They got Hania and they got Deif. The only one left would be, I guess, Sinwar, but I don't know if he matters as much because Sinwar is just supposed to be like the leader of Gaza, right? Mohammed Deif, I think, is I think was I want to say the overall military leader of Hamas, which is the governing body in the Gaza Strip, and he was the military leader, I believe, of Hamas's military wing is called Al-Qassam Brigades, and I think he was the leader of that. I'm sure he also probably, I'm trying to think, I don't know how much they worked with like Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and their military wing is, I think, Al-Quds Brigade. There's probably a lot of crossover, but yeah. But that's a pretty big meme. Will you address Lycan's tweet? Lycan's tweet was, I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't understand that at all.
do not allow their citizens any freedom. And Israeli Arabs enjoy most of the rights. They may be discriminated against in certain things, but they may enjoy certain rights which Jews do not have. For instance, not serving 3 years, wasting 3 years in the army, for example. Israeli Arabs don't do that.
We don't want to do
no,
yes.
it's fine.
Yes,
It's fine.
I'm pretty sure most Palestinians are desperate to serve in the Israeli military right now.
I'm sure you're right.
Thank you for leaving us from
in pre-1967 Zionism in Israel, it was not a colonial enterprise. In the West Bank, there is a colonizing and colonial framework, which is even apartheid-like in its actual workings. But in pre-1967 Israel, that was not the case. And for the first 100 years or so of Zionism, it wasn't a colonial venture. It wasn't a venture of an extension of an imperial. Let me just define colonialism, since you're so busy defining genocide. Imperialism and colonialism were matched together, in which imperial and empire sent its children to dominate and take over a third world country and exploit its riches and its people. This is not what Israel did until 1967.
Commander, do you agree with Benny that there is a colonial aspect,
Oh, edit it out. They cut him off.
an apartheid aspect to the occupied West Bank?
No. Zionism is a national liberation movement that freed its land from Arab Muslim colonialism. How do you think Islam expanded itself from the Arab Peninsula to Indonesia, from Indonesia to Morocco?
Okay, he's kind of being retarded here, but the only reason he's being retarded is because he's technically arguing like the lefties do. And in that case, it kind of is true. Like, you can't talk about imperialism or colonialism when you're talking about disrupting things that came from the caliphates before the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, in my opinion. But this whole framing is so stupid. It's dumb when Jews do it, but it's really dumb when Muslims do it.
Not from the Holy Spirit. This was conquest and colonialism.
Okay, we are out of time, and I'm going to give Diana the last word before we go take a break.
Okay, so now we have a Nakba denier and a Nakba apologist,
denier.
as well as a genocide denier, genocide apologist. The point of the matter is that Palestinians have always paid the price for Israel's colonial adventures. My family hails for hundreds of years from Palestine. And what happened in 1948 was my family was ethnically cleansed from Palestine.
Where?
From Al-Mjaydel. Never able to return back to their home. My father died unable to return back to his village because of the colonialism that is called Zionism. There is no place for Zionism.
We are way
today.
over on time. Daniel, 30 seconds. You want to come in?
What's remarkable to me is we've gone from denying the Nakba, and Benny Morris actually helped get past that, to threatening a second Nakba, and that's the narrative in Israel today, without going through what's most necessary, which is acknowledging and healing and redressing and Palestinians actually getting their rights, because without that, not only will Palestinians never see peace and security and the achievement of freedom, but
Would you agree with Morris's characterization of West Bank as apartheid? Nope. But Morris said, I think he even said it during our debate, and he said it when we were talking before, he doesn't know anything about or care about like international law. That's like not his arena. He doesn't care about it. It's not the thing that he, analyzes at all. So
Israelis will always live in the knowledge that that wrong will create a blowback and there's no security.
About ethnic cleansing, about the Nakba. Can we start part two, Benny, by agreeing, both of us, on something that Israel has seen in recent years, a pretty serious, severe, brazen shift to the right, some would say far right, with the likes of Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir in the cabinet, a lot of fanatical settlers inciting violence in the occupied West Bank. According to some polls, 60% of Israeli Jews say it's better for there to be segregation between the two societies. 48%, according to one poll a few years ago, supported the expulsion of Palestinian citizens of Israel. What is going on in Israel?
Israel has turned definitely to the right. It's partly to do with demography. More religious people are born, more than secular people. I would say also, unfortunately, more Sephardi people are born than Ashkenazi secular people. I would say that in addition to the demographic shift, which has taken place in the last 20, 30, 40 years, continuous Arab terrorism and Arab reluctance to reach a compromise has also driven Israelis to the right.
You've also been critical of the far right in Israel, as we just heard you say.
I'm very critical.
You've called Netanyahu cowardly and incompetent. But you yourself have been criticized by some on the left, both in Israel and abroad, for your own views. And I just want to get through some of them with you, because you've said what many would say are racist things about Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims. You've called them barbarians. You've said they have no moral inhibitions. You've said they ought to be caged. You've said Palestinian citizens of Israel are...
Man, I'm so curious what the context are for every single one of these quotes. But did Benny Morris say all Arabs should be caged, or all Palestinians should be caged? Or let's see, Benny Morris, Arabs caged. Can I find this comment? His sickness is of the mental political kind. The Palestinian, okay, there is an overabundance of quasi-poetic images in the interview as if the mind is haunted by the task of grasping what ails it. Quote, the Palestinian citizens of Israel are a time bomb, end quote, not fellow citizen. Islam is, quote, a world in which human lives don't have the same value as in the West, end quote. Arabs are, quote, barbarians, end quote, at the gate of the Roman Empire. Palestinian society is, quote, a serial killer, end quote, that ought to be executed, and end quote, a wild animal, end quote, that must be caged. So he didn't even say this caged part? Okay, I'm curious what interview this is coming from. Electronic Intifada. Okay, dude. Okay.
Time bomb, a fifth column, the emissary of the enemy.
I got the gist.
I know, but the audience need to hear it.
Okay.
You say you're a liberal and you believe in the peace process. A lot of Palestinians would say, how do we make peace with people who say they're liberal Zionists and they think of us in this way?
It's quite a question of quoting out of context, which you are indulging in. Those who blew up buses and restaurants in Israel during the Second Intifada. I'm talking about both Hamas and Fatah terrorists. I called barbarians, and they behaved. And I did. No, I called them barbarians, and they behaved like barbarians.
You didn't call all
and
Arabs barbarians?
No, I didn't.
You did actually in 2004 in Haaretz. You said the Arab world as it is today is barbarian.
That's true.
The Arab world as it is today is barbaric. Benny Morris. Extraordinary piece on Benny Morris. Fuck. This is the interview? Oh, wait, hold on. Bro, yeah, article sites have gotten to be dog shit. Is there more to the article here? But I can't see this because it's not found. Do any of these snapshots have it, or is it a different URL for the full article, or? Okay, whatever. I don't care. We'll listen to Benny explain it.
The Arab world, I didn't say all Arabs are barbarians. I said the Arab world is barbarian in its behavior.
What does that mean, the Arab world is barbarian?
Have a look at Syria, where the regime killed about 500,000 people.
You have to be super careful when you're talking to white people like Mehdi Hasan. It's very difficult. It took me a long time to break out of this just as a Westerner, because even I felt weird for so long in my studies saying like Arab or the Arab world, because it feels racist, because that's how white people view it. But like, yeah, we can speak broadly, collectively about cultures, about societies, about people, and we can make like broad statements. That doesn't mean you're saying like every single Arab person is evil, but you can say like, we refer to like the Western world as this, could you say Southeast Asian region? I don't know if you can generalize that region as much, but like, yeah, you can speak broadly about things, trends in the Arab world. Like you can say these things, it's okay. It doesn't make you racist. It's not horrible. But I don't want to get into fact checking on this. I don't even care about this today, but we'll read this. I'm trying to be realistic. I know it doesn't always sound politically correct, but I think that political correctness poisons history in any case. It impedes our ability to see the truth. And I also identify with Albert Camus. He was considered a left-winger and a person of high morals, but when he referred to the Algerian problem, he placed his mother ahead of morality. Preserving my people is more important than universal moral concepts. Are you a neoconservative? Are you a neoconservative? Do you read the current historical reality in the terms of Samuel Huntington? I think there is a clash between civilizations here, as Huntington argues. I think the West today resembles the Roman Empire of the 4th, 5th, and 6th centuries. The barbarians are attacking it, and they may also destroy it. The Muslims are the barbarians then. I think the values I mentioned earlier are values of barbarians, the attitude towards democracy, freedom, openness, the attitude towards human life. In that sense, they are barbarians. The Arab world, as it is today, is barbarian. And in your view, these new barbarians are truly threatening the Rome of our time. Yes, the West is stronger, but it's not clear whether it knows how to repulse this wave of hatred. The phenomenon of the mass Muslim penetration into the West and their settlement there is creating a dangerous internal threat. A similar process took place in Rome. They let the barbarians in and they toppled the empire from within. Is it really all that dramatic? Is the West truly in danger? Yes, I think that the war between the civilizations is the main characteristic of the 21st century. I think President Bush, okay, so this is the thing he's talking about. He's saying that they are barbarians in regards to the attitudes towards democracy, freedom, and openness. And then he also, I guess, has a problem with Muslim immigration, which I think is pretty common for Israeli people. I think worry about that. Was this in 2004? Was this interview too? Oof. Okay. So keep in mind, this interview was also given right at the end of the Second Intifada. Well, they didn't know it was the end of the Second, but it's also like 4 years into the Second Intifada as well. So. All right.
So the Arab world, as it is today, is barbarian.
That's true. The Arab world, I didn't say all Arabs are barbarians. I said the Arab world is barbarian in its behavior.
What does that mean, the Arab world is barbarian?
Have a look at Syria, where the regime killed about 500,000 people in its civil war, trying to suppress an uprising. Look at Sudan, where the Arabs are busy killing.
Do you agree with that? Barbarian is a really normatively loaded word. I don't know if I would necessarily use the word barbarian, but like, yeah, I don't think I would have a big, the Arab states are generally not friendly towards democracy, freedom, and openness. That's just kind of a fact. People that disagree with that tend to just be college kids that don't know any better. Yeah. Would you not classify those views as racist? No. There's nothing, he hasn't essentialized anything. And he's speaking broadly about countries and values of people in these countries. It's broadly speaking, it's true. Nothing here is untrue. Why is calling someone barbarian not essentialist? So wait, how would you refer to it in a way that doesn't feel essentialist to you? Like he's even clarifying here, the values I mentioned earlier are values of barbarians. Civilizationally challenged. True. If you said the Muslim states are barbaric, it would be less racist, in my opinion. I don't know. Hold on, wait 1 second. I think the issue is like when you talk about like Arabs, you're implying like a race and a culture, and people get weird about it. But like all the people that are saying that, like, oh my God, it's racist when you say Arabs or Arab cultures or Arabs or whatever. But like these same people will say Zionists are evil, Zionists are murderers, Zionists or whatever. So it's like, I don't buy it. I don't believe this. I wouldn't give any air to this. I don't think this is a real criticism. I think it's just pearl clutching.
Barbarians. I said the Arab world is barbarian in its behavior.
What does that mean, the Arab world is barbarian?
Have a look at Syria, where the regime killed about 500,000 people in its civil war, trying to suppress an uprising. Look at Sudan, where the Arabs are busy killing blacks in Darfur. Look at Libya, where they're killing each other. They throw bombs at funeral cortèges. Look at Iraq. They behave like barbarians.
If somebody said to you, and I would say this is anti-Semitic, if somebody said to you the Jews are barbarians,
No, but they don't say the Jews are barbarians. They've got another word they can use. They can do Zionism. Zionists are barbarians. So they always have like a clever, like, look, this retard on my chat just did it. Zionism is a political position, though. Arab is a nationality/ethnicity. Nah, I'm sorry, fam. That's bullshit. It's like when Trumples are like, oh, Mexicans. And it's like, oof, that's kind of racist, my dude. What? Mexican? That's a nationality, my friend. There's nothing racist about that.
The Jewish world is barbarian. I think you would agree that's anti-Semitic. And if somebody said, well, I'm not being anti-Semitic, I'm just talking about the IDF.
I don't think it would be anti-Semitic. It would be false. That's the point.
You don't think it would be anti-Semitic for me to say the Jewish world is barbarian?
You also have to keep in mind too here that like you're talking to a guy who's Israeli, like their standards for what is like racist or anti-Semitic or whatever are going to be way, way, way different than like all of us white people in the West. Like their views and like, unless they're talking to Westerners trying to convince them of a particular thing, they're not going to give a fuck as much about like the pearl clutching over every individual thing.
The IDF.
I don't think it would be anti-Semitic. It would be false. That's the point.
You don't think it would be anti-Semitic for me to say the Jewish world is barbarian?
It would be false. Not
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, no, but like that's, yeah, no, Benny, I don't think Benny Morris or any historian would have a problem with that. If Jews were, if the Jewish world was engaged in like territorial conquest, you know, consistently and was conquering places, like if you were to say like the Christian world was, you know, conquesting for the Americas, and like, I don't think anybody would have a problem. Yeah, Christians were XYZ or whatever. The issue that you run into is when cultures, or in the West, the issues you run into are when like with cultures and ethnicities and shit start to overlap. It can be hard because in the West we want to call everything racist immediately. And then there's no conversation, yeah.
necessarily anti-Semitic.
And when you say the Israeli Arabs are a time bomb, they're a potential fifth column. All of them. You didn't say some terrorists.
I said Israel's Arab minority, which identifies in large measure with the Palestinian cause, is, in the long historical perspective, a potential time.
Okay, we'll go to this one exchange and we're done. This is boring. I see it's all just like pearl clutching. Like the Israeli Arab population is obviously a time bomb, right? Like you can't have a population of people that are like torn between two worlds, that don't have a place that they feel like they belong, that haven't been, I was going to have been integrated into society, but they have integrated quite well. But they're still like, there's huge forces that are like pushing them away. Like this is an issue, like it has to be solved. Time bomb doesn't necessarily mean you have to like kill them all or deport them all. It just means like this is a ticking time, but you have to do something about it. Now, maybe Benny Morris has spoken that. Maybe he has said that in an article where he's like, yes, these are a time bomb. They need to be expelled. They need to be purged or something. And then you would criticize him on that. But just like the one word or the one, like the one hyphenated expression is like such a weak point of criticism. Like we're not getting into the substance of anything that's being said. We're just like, explain this quote, and then that's it.
Identifies in large measure with the Palestinian cause, is, in the long historical perspective, a potential time bomb. Yes, I would agree with that.
You said they're a potential fifth column.
Or a potential fifth column, yes.
An emissary of the enemy that is among us. This is vicious stuff.
I don't remember using the word enemy.
Whether you remember it or not is irrelevant.
When he said potential fifth column, did this also come from, like, Mehdi just doesn't know the history. He doesn't know anything about what he's talking about, right? This is a 2004 interview when there was violence and bombings and terrorist attacks on an almost daily basis across the entirety of Israel, right? Like, yeah, it makes sense to say that it feels like the Arab population here is a time bomb or is a potential fifth column. Of course, you would understand that in that context. Of course. To take these quotes from an interview 20 years ago, like, obviously times have changed. It's a lot different now than it used to be. Like,
an emissary of the enemy that is among us. This is vicious stuff.
I don't remember using the word enemy.
Whether you remember it or not is irrelevant. You said it. Their slide into complete Palestinization has made them an emissary of the enemy that is among us.
During the Second Intifada, when they were...
Yeah, okay, he's specifying, yeah. What does fifth column mean? Isn't that... I think it's when you have like... Is it a way that people do attacks in your country through another people? Or you just have like sympathizers or people that are not loyal to your country? I don't know why I'm guessing. We just look it up. If Mexico was invading the United States and there were a whole bunch of like Hispanic people here that were like, we're going to help them when they come, they'd be like, that's like a fifth column, I think. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something different. Is a group of people who undermine a larger group or nation from within, usually in favor of an enemy group or another nation. The activities of the fifth column became overt or clandestine. Okay, yeah, basically. Okay.
Riots by Israeli Arabs, blocking of roads, etc., they behaved like an emissary of the enemy. This is correct. It depends on context. You keep quoting things without explaining the context.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that
Benny doesn't do debates. He doesn't know how to do. His mind just doesn't function in like a debate world. Like Benny needs to be bringing up. Can you please acknowledge that you're literally quoting this from an article in 2004 when we were experiencing terrorist attacks from Arabs all across the country for 4 years? Can you please explain that? Like he's not. I don't even know if the audience is aware of that. I don't even know. He just briefly mentioned the Second Intifada, but I don't know if he's aware that that's where these quotes are coming from.
perspective, a potential time bomb. Yes, I would agree with that.
You said they're a potential fifth column.
Or a potential fifth column, yes.
An emissary of the enemy that is among us. This is vicious stuff.
No, I don't remember using the word enemy.
Whether you remember it or not is irrelevant. You said it. Their slide into complete Palestinization has made them an emissary of the enemy that is among us.
During the Second Intifada, when there were riots by Israeli Arabs, blocking of roads, etc., they behaved like an emissary of the enemy.
Like he's making it sound like he's just referring to something that happened in the Second Intifada to defend these current words. But these words were not written now. These words are from an article from 20 years ago.
This is correct. It depends on context. You keep quoting things without explaining the context.
I'm not sure there is any context for dismissing an entire people as a fifth column.
Nobody is. Okay, go ahead.
All right, let's talk about some other views of yours, which are somewhat controversial, many would say. You're not just somebody who said some...
You don't actually want any facts from me or any...
Yeah, it's not. There's no substance here. This is a hit piece. I don't think Benny realizes what Mehdi does.
Explanations of anything.
You just explained yourself very well. You said the Iraqis...
No, you just want to accuse.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing, actually. It's not an accusation, it's a fact.
This isn't really an interview. This is basically blame throwing and an interrogation.
You don't like defending your views?
I don't like...
It's not about defending views. You're just giving him quotes and articles. He's a historian. But you want to do an exclusively political conversation with...
defending my views. I'm able to defend my views, but you come up with these quotations which are out of context. You don't explain the historical context.
Everything.
The audience doesn't understand what you're talking about.
I just read the entire quote to you. I read the entire quote to you.
Like even saying that, and now I know more, now having read and studied one topic with way more depth. When somebody's like, I read the entire quote. Okay, you need more to understand where this is coming from, right? Just having a quote doesn't tell you anything, right?
Racist, which you used at the beginning when you introduced this.
You said, here's something else you said. You said, we're talking about murder in far larger numbers. It's not a matter of money, referring to Palestinians and Israel. It's the society's nature. Yes, I would say that's a racist comment to say an entire society has a murderous nature.
During the Second Intifada.
This was said in 2019, Benny, not in the Second Intifada. That's not my fault if you can't remember when you said things. In 2019, you said, we're talking about murder. It's the society's nature.
Benny Morris, Society's Nature, Murder. Mondavis. Oof, we see where he's getting his shit from. Can I find what is the source on this quote? Well, actually, I guess hopefully they reference it here. In a long interview in Haaretz, published today. Oblivious or malicious from Mehdi here? Well, this is just like your British, like, hit piece journalism. This is what Mehdi does. Mehdi and Pierre are both very good at this, and other people are. Yeah, it's just a style of. I wouldn't say it's necessarily right or wrong, but this is what he does. You just have to know it going in. In the Arab world, and the Israeli Arabs are part of it, you find a lack of self-criticism. It's always the stranger who's to blame. The Briton, the American, the Russian, the Jew, the Israeli, someone else is to blame for your troubles. They breed much more crime in comparison to Jewish society. If you were to tell me that they are poor and therefore they have more property, crimes, and theft, I would say that's right. Poor societies breed material crime, but we're talking about murder in far larger numbers. It's not a matter of money, it's a society's nature. So you would have to drill down a little bit more, I guess. I don't know. Calling somebody racist is just a boring way of analyzing it. But one of the issues that Israel has had in relation to dealing with, I think, some of the surrounding Arab states or some of the surrounding Arab peoples is this assumption that, like, all cultures and all people are the same. So if they're unhappy, they must just need, like, more, like, material wealth to feel better. Like, if they just had more money, more cash infusion, more whatever, then everything will be fine. But the issue with that form of analysis is that it's missing things that are important in the Arab world that, like, people in either the Jewish world or people in the Western world just can't see, because there is a different element to the culture or those people for reasons why they're fighting that aren't strictly related to money, right? Look at the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip gets how much fucking money? And they did October 7th. They did the border riots, 2018, 2019, right? They've done terrorist attacks throughout the entirety of Hamas living there. The amount of money doesn't matter. There's something different about the nature of that particular society for whatever reason. Now, I mean, if you were to say that like this is intrinsic to the mind of an Arab and they can literally never change or whatever, then maybe, I mean, like that would probably be bad. But if you want to fight Benny on this, then fight the facts, fight on the factual level. Don't just say like that's racist. Like fight on the factual level here, or give a counter argument, or flesh it out more.
The murder of who?
The murder rates in Israel. You said Arabs are higher murder rates.
Explain to the audience what we're talking about.
I'm sorry to break it. That's not the get you out of it. You said it's the society.
Let me explain what was going on. The murder rates by Israeli Arabs of their fellow people, basically not of Jews, but of fellow Arabs, is much, much higher. It's about 100 or 200% higher than the murder rate among Jews. The same applies, incidentally, to the killing of women. The same applies to honor murders, which are called honor killings, when a woman shows too much leg or looks at the man the wrong way. This is unfortunately inherent in Arab societies in general in the Middle East and among Israeli Arabs as well. That's the context.
My problem is there's no context for making sweeping statements.
And nobody will deal with that, right? Nobody will deal with, like, address that. Fight him. If you disagree with the fact, fight the fact. Fight it. But they can't, so they just call him racist and then move on.
And among Israeli Arabs as well. That's the context.
My problem is there's no context for making sweeping statements.
You know that's true.
Let me ask you this.
Racist.
Let me ask
you this. True or not?
You are a racist.
We will bring in Diana.
She can't even, I don't even know if she's lived in any of these places. So yeah, they won't even deal with the...
Is it true?
You are a racist through and through. You actually just made a racist comment when you said...
Benny, I will let Diana respond in a moment. You can't tell me you don't want heckling from the audience and engage.
Destiny should debate Mehdi. I don't think he would ever debate me on this. We've gone back and forth a little bit on Twitter, but I don't think he would ever.
When we're talking, you can't have it both ways. So I'm talking to you. We'll come to the audience.
Okay.
One last question. You can do what you want. One last question. It's a free country, as they say. Let me ask you this. It's not just the racism that you've been accused of. You've also been accused of warmongering. You just recently wrote a Haaretz column in June where you said Israel should consider nuking Iran to prevent them from acquiring nuclear weapons. Not even Benjamin Netanyahu has said that. You've said it.
Well, he's more responsible. He's a prime minister.
You're irresponsible.
Yes.
I mean, nuking an entire country.
That is not what's written in the article. You misquote everything. Almost everything you say.
It was a question.
Okay, I'll say what the context is.
Please.
Is destroying the Iranian nuclear facilities. That's the context.
The problem is that when we watch them, we will get to them eventually. I think Benny said the same thing when I interviewed him a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, however fucking long it's been, that we should nuke Iran. But what Jewish people are really worried about or Israeli people are worried about, Israelis are worried that if Iran gets nuclear weapons, Israel is going to be like in an untenable, completely fucked position, and the West isn't going to be able to do anything strong enough to help them because now Iran has nuclear weapons and now everything is completely fucked. Israel has done attacks in, I think, Iran and Iraq and Syria over the past 60 years. Have they got like bombed facilities where they feel like there have been either nuclear weapons, they were starting to produce things, or nuclear plants or something? I think it might have been in those three. It might have just been in Iraq and Iran. It might have just been in Iraq. It might have been in all three. It might have been in all three. I don't remember. But like specifically targeting like nuclear stuff. It might, yeah. Might only have been in Iraq and Syria, actually, maybe. I don't remember. But I know that there's a huge concern that Israel has. Yeah, of course. And it's reasonable to have that concern, yeah.
Nukes.
Yes, with nukes, but not destroying Iran, as you just said, I said.
You think dropping a nuke on Iran would have limited...
Not on Iran.
I don't... Just so you guys know, nukes aren't a thing where when you drop one nuke, the entire country is deleted, right? Nukes are not typically that powerful. Not every nuke has to be the largest nuke in the world. Like, when he says nuke here, what he really just means is bomb a lot, right? It could be a nuclear weapon, or it could just be a lot of conventional bombs. Like, it's like, when you say like nuke Iran, I don't think any reasonable interpretation of that would be, Benny Morris is saying they need to nuke Iran to kill all 50 million people. Like, but, okay. Like, Iran is a really big country.
That's the context.
With nukes.
Yes, with nukes, but not destroying Iran, as you just said, I said.
You think dropping a nuke on Iran would have limited...
Not on Iran, on...
Yes. Oh, no, the answer... See, this Benny's just not a debater. Yes, it would have limited... What? Hold on, Mehdi. I'm sorry, what are you implying? If you drop one nuke on Iran, are you going to blow the entire country up? Is that what you're saying, Mehdi? Is that one nuke will blow the whole country up?
That's the context.
With nukes.
Yes, with nukes, but not destroying Iran, as you just said, I said.
You think dropping a nuke on Iran would have limited...
Not on Iran. On small nuclear bombs can destroy facilities like...
Oh, there, see, he does say it. That's good.
Tons, and you know that.
And you...
It's not to
I mean, you've been advocating this for 15 years, right?
No, I've been advocating an Israeli strike against the Iranian nuclear project because Iran says that its policy is to destroy Israel. If they ever achieve nuclear weaponry, Israel will be in mortal...
But you didn't say that. You said bomb them. You said in 2008.
No. Now,
in 2008?
You're not telling the truth.
Like, what are you saying, Mehdi? Do you think that Benny was saying we need to nuke the entire Iranian civilian population? Is it... Yeah, I don't know. If you nuke a nuclear station, wouldn't that set the nuclear to blow a huge part of it? No. I think for conventional explosions, I think those are just detonated by like a certain temperature or by like fire being present, and then the accelerants and everything blow up. Nuclear reactions, I think, are way more controlled. Like, you have to have like an atom splitting a thing, and then you've got have like a containment area to like allow the reaction to grow and grow and grow. And like that's how a nuclear bomb is done. If you just like nuke a nuke, I don't think the nuke would nuclearly explode. Or if you like nuke a power plant, I don't think it would all like nuclearly explode. You might deal with like fallout or like scattered nuclear material or whatever, but it's not going to be the same as like going through the process of detonating like a fission bomb or fusion bomb or whatever for how you do it.
You know that.
You didn't call for the nuclear. You didn't call for a nuclear strike in 2008 on Iran.
No, I didn't.
You wrote
in 2008, I said Israel should destroy the Iranian nuclear installation.
With a nuclear strike.
No, I didn't say
this
that.
This is my problem, Benny. You keep saying I quote. You don't.
No, and I do.
Like Mehdi is living in fucking like quotes here. It's so fucking retarded.
You know that.
You didn't call for the nuclear. You didn't call for a nuclear strike in 2008 on Iran.
No, I didn't.
You wrote
in 2008, I said Israel should destroy the Iranian nuclear installation.
With a nuclear strike.
No, I didn't say
this
that.
This is my problem, Benny. You keep saying I quote. You don't.
No, and I do.
The New York Times,
no.
July the 18th, 2008, an Israeli nuclear.
The New York Times, July the 18th, 2008.
Nuclear strike to prevent the Iranians from taking the final steps towards getting the bomb is probable.
I didn't say I supported it. I said it's probable.
You said the alternative is letting Tehran have its bomb. It's very clear what you were saying. Come on, now who's playing word games?
Israel does not have as part of its policy and doesn't announce as its policy the destruction of Iran. But Iran does say that its policy is to destroy Israel, and they are working diligently to get nuclear weapons. And if the Iranians do achieve nuclear weapons, Israel will be basically...
Like there's no substance. Mehdi will never deal with this. Like with what he's saying here. Mehdi will never discuss any of this, right?
Finished. That's what the Iranians are aiming at. And using tactical nuclear weapons to destroy the Iranian nuclear installations before they achieve nuclear weaponry, it makes sense to me. It may not make sense.
It doesn't make sense to Benny. The reality, though, is you can't really use any nuclear weapon ever, because once you've opened the door to use nuclear weapons, just because of the emotional feeling that nuclear weapons like provide, it's just not because now you've greenlit like nuclear warfare. It wouldn't surprise me if there are probably larger conventional bombs. It must be the case. There are larger conventional bombs that do more damage than like the smallest nuclear weapons, would be my guess. But whenever you say nuclear weapon, people just imagine like a bomb that blows up the entirety of like the state of Pennsylvania, like a huge... that said, I don't know how like sophisticated all the nuclear weapons that exist today are. It might be that we don't have... I guess we could check out. Would you just be measuring like tonnage? Smallest nuclear warhead today... No, I don't want like really old shit. This is a nuclear weapon but this is 70 years ago. It says 10 tons of a TNT equivalent. 2,000 pound bomb TNT equivalent. Is it the same type of ton? Would this be metric ton or? I don't know the conversions between all of these. When they measure bombs in like tonnage, I don't know. I don't even know what that ton refers to. Look up tactical nuclear weapon. Tactical nuclear weapon. Is it yield? Is that what we're looking at? The yield varies for a tactical nuclear weapon from a fraction of a kiloton to approximately 50 kilotons. What is mother of all bombs? Yield is an 11-ton bomb. Okay, that's all I need. Okay, debate one. I don't know what the advantages would be though of using a tactical nuclear weapon versus a huge conventional weapon. My guess is Benny's just saying this because he doesn't know weapons. But I could be wrong. Maybe there's a reason. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Because you're not an Israeli, so you don't care. But
I'm a human being, so I care about nuclear weapons.
I don't know what you care about. I don't know what you care about.
Well, you just assumed. Let me go to our panel here. We have Diana Boutou, Palestinian lawyer in Israel, former advisor to the PLO. We have Daniel Levy, former Israeli peace negotiator at the US Middle East Project. We have Emmanuel Navon, who is an international relations lecturer at Tel Aviv.
Zoning off an area with radiation. I don't think radiation is a major concern with any conventional nuclear weapon. Even with the older nuclear weapons, I just don't think radiation is that big of a concern for like fallout after the initial blast.
University. Diana, I've got to bring you in first since we got started earlier. Potential fifth column.
This is exactly the problem, is that he's a racist. He espouses these racist views. That's the problem with Israel. Israel is a society, a country that is based on this idea of Jewish supremacy, and anything that they do or say goes, which means, therefore, that as a Palestinian who lives in that country, who is not enjoying any benefits of so-called democracy, that they get to espouse and tell me how I feel. They get to make statements like we are a fifth column, and they actually treat Palestinians as though they are a fifth column. It's very important, Mehdi, for people to understand that...
Oh, a tactical nuclear weapon could be carried because they're much smaller. That might be the case, that it's a much smaller weapon to carry, maybe, sure.
Israel came to us. We didn't immigrate to Israel. Israel's a colonial movement, and as a colonial movement, its aim is to not only get rid of Palestinians, but it's to transform the entire place, to erase and replace.
Okay, Emmanuel, I want to ask you this. Do you recognize the shifts that Benny was agreeing on at the start of this segment about what's happening inside of Israeli society?
Well, allow me to respond to what Diana just said. She's not telling the truth. What she's saying is not true. First of all, the Jewish country, I mean, there are over 190 states in the world. Most of them are nation states. It's not about supremacy. It is about national self-determination and freedom. Now, we didn't come to you. This is our land.
No, it's
this
not.
is a Jewish land.
The way that the state was created
it's
was
our
through
land.
the
And first of all, when you
ethnic
came to you,
cleansing
it's
of
not, I did not
Palestinians,
interrupt you.
including my family.
Let him finish his point, Diana.
Okay. First of all, when you say we've been there for hundreds of years, the word Palestine, it's an invention of British colonialism. It was invented in 1920. It did not exist under the Ottoman Empire. So when this story starts, it's a colonial invention. So when you say Palestine, and you can't even pronounce it in Arabic because there's no P in Arabic, that's why we say Palestine.
There's no J in Hebrew.
We did not conquer.
All right, Emmanuel, I'm going to bring you back to my question and then move on. What do you make of Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir referring to Arabs in the most dehumanizing race? Or are you going to deny that as well?
Like every society, we have our extremists.
Okay.
It's a democracy. I don't agree with them, but we have, like every society, we have our extremists. And
yours are in government.
Yes, well, I didn't vote for this government. I wish they were not in the government.
Okay. Daniel hasn't spoken. Daniel Levy.
When I was in a Zionist youth movement and president of the World Union of Jewish Students, being pumped with the talking points and the propaganda points, I really think they were more sophisticated, and I may be misremembering this. I genuinely cannot believe that this is what now constitutes an Israeli attempt at defending and putting your best foot forward. But then I look at the reality in Israel today, and of course that's what it should look like, because what's the reality we're living in? And let me take two snapshots. First of all, it's really not that surprising that we've got to this point when you consider the impunity with which the external community and Israel's allies and the West and the US treat Israel, despite the litany, the entire spectrum of violations of international law and of human rights. And yet every time there's an excuse, there's a veto at the United Nations, then there's more arms. And in that respect, don't expect Israelis to come up with better talking points when they don't have to, because you're willing to run cover for them and create completely the wrong incentive structure.
Please respond.
I must put this. You've got three people in a panel, two of whom are pro-Palestinian,
Yes.
anti-Zionist.
That's the purpose of the panel, yes.
It's supposed to be two against one. That's the way you've organized
yes,
this.
we did ask you to watch the show before you
I
came in.
consider myself pro-Jewish,
No, you're not
pro-Palestinian,
No,
pro-human. I consider myself...
Let me finish, please. Let me finish. You are a pro-Palestinian propagandist. That's all you've become. Just so that you know that.
Let's go around the audience. We're going to try and see where we've got some hands up. We're going to go to gentleman here, third row with the jacket on.
Just if you could say something more from an Israeli perspective in terms of the threat they face from Hamas as an Islamist movement which is pledged to slaughter all the Jews in Israel. That's what it says in its charter. Never revokes charter. If you could explain that in more detail, please.
The Hamas...
A tactical nuke would be a great escalation from any conventional weapon, but not to the level of an actual nuke, hence can be seen as an intermediation, but not a nuclear war. I would disagree, but I don't know from like a military whatever perspective, but just from a civilian perspective, I think that people would be more comfortable with like 15 mother of all bombs dropped on a country versus one extremely small tactical nuke. I think once you've opened the box on like nuclear weapons from just a civilian population perspective, I think it feels like everything is like, keep in mind, the average person believes that a nuclear weapon produces radioactive fallout for months or years. They think that the average nuclear weapon when it explodes will delete like entire regions of countries off the map. Maybe like there's like just the association with nuclear weapons is horrifying, probably for good reason too, because it prevents us from using them. So the idea of like using a tactical nuke or a small nuke is just it doesn't even compute in most people's minds. So as soon as you like start bringing out like small nuclear weapons, yeah. Is Al Jazeera in the same category as Russia Today? I don't know if Al Jazeera gets their marching orders from I don't know what it says. Despite allegations the government of Qatar has editorial influence over its content, AJMN maintains that its point is not influenced or directed by the Qatari government, and it does not reflect any official government viewpoints. I don't know. I don't actually know. I don't have enough. The wiki says it doesn't, but I don't have enough information to say.
American media, a lot of American media is...
If you say that, that would be anti-Semitic, so I'm not going to go there. Right?
Oh, is that...
You can say this if you want. I don't think has anybody ever gotten banned by saying, I feel like Jews have a lot of influence on American media? Like... Can't you? I don't think has anybody been banned for saying that?
Anti-Semitic?
They're telling me everything that I say now is
I didn't
anti-Semitic.
know that.
But I'm saying that
This guy is definitely anti-Semitic and definitely hates Jews, by the way. 1,000,000,000%. But
even the Jewish people in Israel telling you these are lies.
Well, my Jewish friends who, they say that the media is mostly run by Jewish folks. I don't think that's.
It is.
They told me that.
It is. All of the corporates, all of the CEOs, but that's a different. But I don't want to go into their intention. I'm just giving you a case that it
But we
didn't
can't
have.
say that though.
Well, according to a bill that was passed by the Congress 2 months ago, there's now an anti-Semitic bill that any criticism to Israel will be counted as anti-Semitic. Any criticism to Jewish people who might have a
that sounds like a real bill. That sounds like it's regular. It's actually super illegal in the U.S. Yes, that sounds like a real thing for sure.
a dual loyalty to Israel and America, if you attack them, that would be called anti-Semitic. If you talk about AIPAC controlling the elections and giving money, that's anti-Semitic. I said, wait a minute, that's against the First Amendment of the United States. Because I have grown up seeing people shitting on everything, on the American president, on religion, on Jesus Christ,
gays, whites, blacks,
Jesus, whites, Muslims.
Jesus,
but when
Santa.
but suddenly when you talk about Israel, which is a foreign country that we give aid, you can't speak. You can't talk about you're labeled anti-Semitic. Why?
As he's on one of the largest podcasts, I think, in the U.S. talking about this. Okay. I think Theophan is like a really good...
A lot of American media.
Conservatives are so wacky. They go to so many places to talk about things they can't talk about. It's crazy how they're able to do that.